Some triggers that might require updating a workplace violence prevention training, there's a few red flags that come to mind right away. The obvious ones, certainly when there's been a workplace incident or a near miss, that's a clear sign that you need to revisit your training. But there's even like less dramatic shifts that might signal the need, something like, an organizational restructuring, if you have new locations, changes in leadership, any of those, more subtle shifts might justify an update. The bottom line is you just want your training to reflect your current risk landscape, not where the company was 2 years ago, but where you are today. And really a way to get that and a best practice today is to incorporate employee feedback, get them talking about their needs and concerns that they might have in the workplace and address those. We've worked with a few organizations to, get their workplace violence prevention plans in place, get their training in place. And we had a specific organization, they were an international grassroots organization. So a lot of folks that were interacting with the public, and they really didn't have a response plan or training for their team in place. This is an organization that, can deal with confrontation quite regularly because they are interfacing with the public. So it's a particularly important industry to make sure that you have that addressed, that you've got a plan in place, you're training your folks on it so that you can do your best faith effort to keep your employees safe. And in this case, they did have a safety issue with an employee that resulted in a workers' comp claim. And that can mean fines and it can erode the employee's trust. So having your training current, you can really avoid a lot of that fallout. A lack of planning can lead to real liability and it can it could lead to real reputational harm for the employer. Well, there's been a big shift in terms of, or an importance placed on workplace violence prevention, particularly in California. We have a Senate bill, California's Senate Bill 553 is really the requirement that makes it, a regulatory requirement for California-based employers. And it raises the bar by requiring a written plan as well as annual training for all employees. So it's not just the managers or just people in high-risk jobs, but it's all employees. And, this really came out of, a couple different scenarios or different events that was going on in the world, namely COVID and masking and not masking. I mean, that was a pretty high tension time. And so we saw a lot more an uptick in workplace violence that we hadn't seen prior to that. So the best practices have now moved towards including the employees and their input on risks that they might see, as well as providing training that includes, real life scenarios that might actually occur in that given workplace so that the training is more beneficial and actionable. In terms of the training that we offer to our clients related to workplace violence prevention, there's some very particular things that have to be covered in training, some definitions and language around, what is considered violence in the workplace. And so we can help prepare a client with the basic training that all employees go through, as well as training specific to the employer's work site. So we have a customizable deck that can be really tailored to the work site. Again, utilizing that and getting that input from employees in terms of risks that they may see and working through some of those scenarios and making sure that the employees are trained on those.